This authorized audiobook of The Digital Soul, A New Frontier for Spiritual Growth, 6. Cosmic Soul Journey Book 8, is presented by Soul Sanctuary Audio. Copyright Serafina Hartwell. Introduction: The Digital Soul, A New Frontier for Spiritual Growth. The glow of a smartphone screen casts soft shadows across the room, illuminating faces that are simultaneously connected and isolated. It's midnight, yet another hour stolen by endless scrolling, emails to answer, feeds to refresh, notifications demanding attention. Somewhere in this ceaseless cycle, you feel it, a faint tug at the edges of your awareness, like a whisper from someplace deeper within yourself. But before you can grasp its meaning, the next ping pulls you back into the digital maelstrom. This is the paradox of our time. A world where technology has brought unprecedented connection, but also profound disconnection. We live in an era defined by hyperconnectivity, where every moment is documented, shared, and curated for public consumption. Yet beneath the surface of likes, comments, and virtual validation lies a growing hunger for something more meaningful, something real, something sacred. In The Digital Soul, we embark on a journey to bridge the gap between the digital and the divine. This book invites you to explore how modern tools, social media, artificial intelligence, and constant connectivity can either hinder or enhance your spiritual growth. Through practical strategies, reflective exercises, and insights drawn from both ancient wisdom and cutting-edge research, we will uncover ways to use technology mindfully while deepening your connection to your inner self. For those who find themselves caught between their online lives and their longing for deeper purpose, this book offers a lifeline. You'll learn not only how to navigate the noise, but also how to listen closely to the quiet voice of your subconscious, the part of you that speaks through dreams, intuition, and unspoken emotions. By decoding these messages, you can reclaim your sense of balance, presence, and peace. Let us begin by understanding the landscape we inhabit. A realm where the boundaries between the physical and the virtual blur, where algorithms shape our perceptions, and where the soul yearns for clarity amidst chaos. Together, we will discover how to transform the very tools that often overwhelm us into instruments of transformation and transcendence. 1. The paradox of connection. The faint hum of a notification pierces the quiet. It's 6:47 a.m., and the first light of dawn filters through sheer curtains, painting soft streaks across the bedroom wall. Sarah groggily reaches for her phone on the nightstand, her thumb instinctively swiping to unlock it before she's even fully awake. Her eyes scan the screen. A work email marked urgent, a birthday reminder from Facebook, an Instagram story update from someone she hasn't seen in years. Before she can process any of it, another ping interrupts her thoughts. "Good morning," chirps her virtual assistant, cheerfully announcing the day's weather forecast and top headlines. She barely hears it over the mental chatter already swirling in her mind. Asterisk, why is everyone up before me? Did I miss something important? What if I don't respond fast enough? Asterisk. By the time Sarah climbs out of bed, her pulse has quickened, her shoulders tensed as though bracing for battle. This isn't how she imagined starting her day, not when she'd gone to sleep dreaming of peace, clarity, and maybe even a little joy. Yet here she is, tethered once again to the relentless pull of connectivity. A world wired together. Sarah's experience is far from unique. Across the globe, millions wake each day to the same symphony of alerts, messages, and updates. Technology has woven itself into the fabric of our lives so seamlessly that we rarely question its presence or its impact. We've been promised connection, convenience, and infinite possibility. And yet, beneath the surface lies a growing unease, a sense that something vital is slipping away. To understand this tension, let's step back and examine the broader landscape. Social media platforms, designed to foster community, now dominate our attention economies. Algorithms curate content tailored specifically to keep us engaged, feeding us endless streams of information that blur the line between relevance and manipulation. Meanwhile, smartphones have become extensions of ourselves, tools we rely on not just for communication, but for navigation, entertainment, productivity, and even self-expression. But what happens when these tools begin to shape more than just our schedules or preferences? What happens when they start influencing how we see ourselves and others? The illusion of presence. Take a moment to consider your own habits. How often do you find yourself scrolling through social media while sitting with friends or family? Perhaps you're nodding along to a conversation, half listening, while secretly checking your phone under the table. Or maybe you've caught yourself zoning out during a meeting, distracted by the glow of unread notifications. This phenomenon, the act of being physically present but mentally elsewhere, is known as continuous partial attention, coined by researcher Linda Stone. The term describes a state where we attempt to stay connected to everything at once, sacrificing depth for breadth. While it may feel productive in the short term, continuous partial attention erodes our ability to focus, communicate authentically, and engage meaningfully with the world around us. For Sarah, this pattern plays out daily. At work, she toggles between Slack channels, emails, and project management apps, trying to keep pace with an ever-growing list of demands. By lunchtime, her brain feels foggy, her energy depleted. Even during breaks, she defaults to scrolling through Twitter or watching YouTube videos, seeking distraction rather than rest. When she finally leaves the office, exhausted, she retreats to her apartment only to repeat the cycle, Netflix streaming in the background, texts pinging intermittently, her laptop open beside her as she half-heartedly attempts to unwind. And yet, despite all this activity, Sarah feels profoundly disconnected. From herself, from others, the deeper sense of purpose she craves, the hijacking of spirituality. At its core, spirituality is about connection to ourselves, to others, and to something greater than ourselves. But modern technology often disrupts this process, hijacking our natural inclinations toward reflection and introspection. Consider the ways social media encourages comparison. Every post, photo, or status update invites judgment, whether conscious or unconscious. Over time, this constant evaluation chips away at our self-esteem, leaving us feeling inadequate or unworthy. Moreover, the algorithms driving these platforms exploit psychological vulnerabilities. They reward behaviors like frequent posting and engagement, reinforcing cycles of validation-seeking behavior. Likes, comments, and shares trigger dopamine hits, creating addictive feedback loops that make it difficult to disengage. For many, the result is a paradoxical sense of loneliness amidst hyperconnectivity, a feeling of being perpetually plugged in, yet spiritually adrift. Even seemingly benign activities, like browsing Pinterest boards or reading inspirational quotes online, can contribute to this disconnection. Instead of fostering genuine growth, they often serve as substitutes for real action or change. As one psychologist puts it, we mistake consumption for transformation. Breaking the cycle. So, how do we break free from this cycle? The answer begins with awareness. To reclaim our spiritual well-being, we must first recognize technology influences our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This requires stepping back, not necessarily abandoning our devices altogether, but observing how we interact with them. Setting aside 10 minutes each evening to reflect on your digital habits. Ask yourself, what triggered my use of technology today? Was it boredom, anxiety, curiosity, or something else? How did I feel afterward? Energized, fulfilled, drained, or numb? Are there moments when I could have chosen differently, perhaps opting for a walk outside instead of reaching for my phone? These questions may seem simple, but their cumulative effect can be profound. By cultivating mindfulness around our tech usage, we create space for intentionality. Rather than reacting reflexively to every notification, we learn to pause, breathe, and decide whether engaging will truly serve us. A glimmer of hope. Back in her apartment, Sarah sits cross-legged on the floor, her phone face down beside her. Tonight, she's decided to try something different. Inspired by a podcast she listened to earlier in the week, she pulls out a journal and begins writing freely, letting her thoughts spill onto the page without judgment. At first, the words come haltingly, snippets of frustration, confusion, longing, but soon they flow more easily. She writes about the pressure she feels to always be on, the fear of missing out, the ache of feeling unseen despite her carefully curated online persona. As she writes, something shifts inside her. For the first time in weeks, she feels a flicker of clarity, a glimmer of hope. Maybe she doesn't have to live this way. Maybe there's a path forward that honors both her need for connection and her desire for authenticity. Little does Sarah know, this small act of vulnerability will set the stage for profound transformation. In the chapters ahead, we'll explore practical strategies for navigating the complexities of modern life, helping you forge a new relationship with technology, one rooted in mindfulness, balance, and purpose. Until then, remember this: the journey begins with a single step. Whether it's putting down your phone, taking a deep breath, or simply noticing the present moment, every choice matters. Let's embark on this path toward wholeness, one mindful decision at a time. 2. Digital detox or digital balance. The rain tapped gently against the window pane, a rhythmic pattern that seemed to echo Sarah's restless thoughts. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, an unexploded bomb. Her fingers hovered over the power button, trembling slightly. Just turn it off, she thought. What's the worst that could happen? But the question lingered in her mind like a shadow. What would happen if she disconnected completely? Would she miss something critical? Would people forget about her? Or worse, would they notice? Sarah sighed and leaned back in her chair, letting her gaze drift toward the steaming mug of chamomile tea in front of her. The aroma was soothing, but it did little to calm the storm brewing inside her. Yesterday's journaling session had unearthed emotions she hadn't realized were buried so deeply, feelings of inadequacy, frustration, and a gnawing sense of emptiness. For the first time, she'd allowed herself to confront the truth. Her constant connectivity wasn't just a habit, it was a crutch. And now, faced with the prospect of letting go, even temporarily, she felt exposed, vulnerable. The myth of the digital detox. In recent years, the idea of a digital detox has gained traction, touted as the ultimate solution for anyone overwhelmed by technology. Articles abound with headlines like 30 Days, Without Social Media Changed My Life, and How I Quit My Phone Addiction and Found Happiness. These stories paint a picture of liberation, suggesting that complete disconnection is the key to reclaiming control. But for Sarah and countless others, the notion of unplugging entirely felt less like freedom and more like deprivation. After all, her smartphone wasn't just a source of distraction, it was also a lifeline. It kept her connected to clients, colleagues, and friends. It helped her navigate unfamiliar neighborhoods, order groceries, and stay informed about global events. To abandon it altogether seemed impractical, even irresponsible. Research supports this skepticism. A study published in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology found that while reducing social media use can improve mental health, abrupt withdrawal often leads to feelings of isolation and anxiety. Participants who attempted total abstinence reported heightened stress levels, particularly those whose professional lives depended on digital tools. Clearly, the answer wasn't as simple as flipping a switch. Instead of viewing technology as inherently toxic, what if we reframed the conversation? What if the goal wasn't elimination but equilibrium, finding ways to coexist with our devices without allowing them to dominate our lives? Redefining boundaries. Sarah picked up her phone again, this time opening the Settings app. She scrolled through the screen time report, her eyes widening as she absorbed the numbers. Last week alone, she'd spent nearly 40 hours on social media and messaging apps. 40 hours. That was half a work week. Half her waking life, gone in a blur of swipes and taps. She set the phone down and reached for a pen, jotting down 3 words in bold letters: boundaries, intentionality, rituals, ***. If she couldn't disconnect entirely, perhaps she could create healthier habits around her tech usage. The concept of boundaries resonated with her immediately. Fences define property lines. Personal limits could help protect her time and energy. But where to start? One approach came from Dr. Cal Newport, a computer scientist and author known for digital minimalism. In his book Digital Minimalism, Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World, Newport argues that technology should serve specific, meaningful purposes rather than dictating our behavior. He suggests conducting a digital declutter, a 30-day period during which users eliminate optional technologies from their lives, and then reintroduce only those that add genuine value. For Sarah, the idea of a full month offline still felt daunting. But she liked the principle behind it: intentionality. Rather than reacting reflexively to every notification, she could decide beforehand which apps and activities aligned with her goals. This shift in mindset alone felt empowering. Reclaiming inner silence. With newfound resolve, Sarah began experimenting with small changes. First, she deleted several apps she rarely used: games, shopping platforms, and news aggregators that siphon away precious minutes without offering much in return. Next, she adjusted her notification settings, disabling non-essential alerts and silencing her phone during designated focus hours. But perhaps the most transformative step was introducing rituals into her daily routine. Inspired by mindfulness practices she'd read about, she committed to starting each morning with a tech-free ritual. On day 1, she woke up 15 minutes earlier than usual, brewed a cup of tea, and sat quietly by the window, watching the sunrise. At first, the silence felt uncomfortable, almost unbearable. Her mind raced with thoughts of unread emails and pending deadlines. But gradually, the stillness enveloped her, creating space for clarity and calm. By the end of the week, Sarah noticed subtle shifts in her mood and productivity. Without the constant barrage of notifications, she felt more present, not just in her work, but in conversations with friends and family. Even mundane tasks, like grocery shopping or folding laundry, became opportunities for mindfulness. She started noticing details she'd previously overlooked: the texture of fresh basil leaves, the sound of laughter echoing down the street, the warmth of sunlight streaming through her living room curtains. The power of sacred moments. As Sarah continued refining her approach, she discovered another powerful tool: micro-moments of sacredness. These brief pauses throughout the day served as anchors, grounding her in the present moment. Whether taking 3 deep breaths before responding to an email or stepping outside for a 5-minute walk between meetings, these rituals helped her maintain balance amidst the chaos. As she prepared dinner, Sarah decided to test this concept further. Instead of scrolling through Instagram while waiting for water to boil, she closed her eyes and focused on the sounds around her: the hiss of the stove, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the distant chirping of birds settling in for the night. When the timer dinged, signaling that her pasta was ready, she opened her eyes with a smile. For the first time in ages, cooking didn't feel like a chore. It felt like an act of creation. These moments of presence weren't just pleasant, they were profound. They reminded Sarah of her humanity, her capacity to experience joy and wonder even in the simplest acts. And they reinforced a crucial lesson. Spirituality isn't confined to grand gestures or elaborate ceremonies. It lives in the everyday, waiting to be uncovered. A new perspective. By the end of the month, Sarah's relationship with technology had transformed. She no longer saw her phone as an adversary, but as a tool, one that required careful handling. Her days were no longer dictated by algorithms or notifications. Instead, she approached each interaction with purpose and discernment. Of course, challenges remained. There were days when old habits crept back in, tempting her to check social media out of boredom or scroll aimlessly through YouTube videos late at night. But now, armed with strategies and self-awareness, she knew how to course correct. Each misstep became an opportunity to learn, to grow, to deepen her practice. Looking ahead, Sarah realized that finding balance wasn't a destination, but a journey, a continual process of refinement and adaptation. As she closed her journal that night, she wrote one final note to herself. Asterisk, technology doesn't have to steal my soul. It can be a bridge to connection, to creativity, to peace. The choice is mine. Asterisk, setting the stage for growth. This chapter marks a turning point in Sarah's story, and in yours. By embracing the principles of digital balance, you too can begin reshaping your relationship with technology. In the chapters ahead, we'll explore additional tools and techniques for cultivating mindfulness, decoding subconscious messages, and integrating spiritual practices into your daily life. Together, let's forge a path forward, one that honors both the digital and the divine within us. Until then, take a moment to reflect. Where do you need boundaries? How might you infuse your day with sacred moments? Remember, transformation begins with a single step. Take yours today. 3. Mindfulness in the age of multitasking. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting long, golden streaks across Sarah's kitchen counter. She stood there, gripping her coffee mug tightly, as if it were a lifeline keeping her tethered to reality. Her mind buzzed with fragments of thoughts, half-formed ideas about work emails she needed to send, errands she couldn't forget, and an unsettling dream from the night before that lingered just out of reach. She glanced at her phone, resting on the countertop, its screen dark, but somehow still radiating a silent demand for attention. It was tempting, so easy, to pick it up, scroll aimlessly, and let the noise drown out the chaos in her head. But something stopped her. Yesterday's experiment with tech-free rituals had left her feeling lighter, more grounded. Could she replicate that sense of calm today? Or would multitasking drag her back into the whirlpool of distraction? The myth of productivity through multitasking. For years, society has glorified multitasking as the hallmark of efficiency. We've been conditioned to believe that doing more equals achieving more, that juggling multiple tasks simultaneously is the key to success. Advertisements tout hacks for maximizing productivity, apps that track every minute of your day, planners filled with color-coded schedules, even wearable devices that monitor your focus levels. The message is clear. If you're not optimizing every second, you're falling behind. But neuroscience tells a different story. Studies show that multitasking doesn't enhance performance, it fractures it. When we attempt to do too much at once, our brains switch rapidly between tasks, leaving us mentally fatigued and prone to errors. A landmark study conducted by researchers at Stanford University revealed that heavy multitaskers performed worse on memory tests and struggled to filter irrelevant information compared to those who focused on one task at a time. In essence, multitasking isn't making us more productive. It's making us less effective and far more stressed. Sarah knew this intellectually, yet breaking the habit felt impossible. Her job required constant context switching, responding to client emails while drafting proposals, attending virtual meetings while reviewing documents, managing deadlines while fielding last-minute requests. Each interruption pulled her further away from the task at hand, scattering her attention like leaves caught in a gust of wind. The neuroscience of focus ****. To understand why multitasking fails us, we must first examine how the brain processes information. Unlike computers, which can run multiple programs simultaneously, the human brain operates sequentially. When faced with competing stimuli, it prioritizes immediate threats or rewards, a survival mechanism inherited from our ancestors. This explains why notifications feel so urgent. They hijack the same neural pathways designed to alert us to danger. But here's the catch: modern distractions rarely pose actual threats. That email ping isn't a predator lurking in the bushes. It's likely something trivial, easily addressed later. Yet because our brains are wired to respond quickly, we give these interruptions disproportionate weight, sacrificing focus and flow in the process. Fortunately, there's hope. Research suggests that training the brain to resist distractions can improve cognitive function and emotional resilience. One powerful technique is mindfulness meditation, which strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and sustained attention. Even brief periods of mindfulness practice have been shown to reduce stress, enhance creativity, and boost overall well-being. Single tasking, a radical act. Determined to reclaim her focus, Sarah decided to try single tasking, a concept that initially struck her as radical. How could she possibly dedicate her full attention to one thing when there were always 10 others clamoring for her time? Still, she resolved to give it a shot. Her first experiment took place during her afternoon writing session. Normally, she'd toggle between her document, research tabs, and Slack messages, her cursor hovering indecisively as her mind flitted from task to task. Today, however, she closed all unnecessary windows, silenced her phone, and set a timer for 25 minutes. Inspired by the Pomodoro technique, she committed to focusing solely on her proposal until the timer buzzed. At first, the silence unnerved her. Without the comforting hum of background activity, she felt exposed, vulnerable. Doubts crept in. What if I miss something important? What if someone needs me right now? But as the minutes ticked by, something remarkable happened. Words began flowing more easily. Ideas connected seamlessly. By the end of the session, she'd accomplished more in 25 minutes than she typically did in 2 hours of scattered effort. Encouraged by this success, Sarah expanded her single-tasking experiments to other areas of her life. She started eating meals without distractions, savoring each bite rather than rushing through them while scrolling through social media. She practiced listening intently during conversations, resisting the urge to interrupt or plan her next response. Slowly, but surely, she began noticing subtle shifts, not just in her productivity, but in her relationships, her mood, and her overall sense of presence. Creating sacred spaces within. As Sarah embraced single-tasking, she discovered another unexpected benefit: the creation of sacred spaces within herself. These weren't physical sanctuaries, but moments of mental clarity, pockets of peace amidst the chaos. They reminded her of the quiet interludes she'd experienced during her tech-free mornings, those fleeting glimpses of stillness that made everything else seem manageable. One evening, as she prepared for bed, Sarah paused to reflect on the day. She recalled a particularly challenging meeting earlier that afternoon, where tensions ran high and tempers flared. Instead of reacting impulsively, she'd taken a deep breath, allowing herself a moment to center before responding. The pause had diffused the tension, transforming what could have been a heated argument into a constructive dialogue. It was a small victory, but it reinforced the power of mindfulness in action. Inspired by this realization, Sarah began incorporating intentional pauses throughout her day. Before answering emails, she took 3 slow breaths to ground herself. Between meetings, she stepped outside for a few minutes of fresh air, letting the crisp breeze reset her energy. Even mundane tasks like brushing her teeth or folding laundry became opportunities for mindfulness. She noticed textures, sounds, sensations, the soft bristles against her gums, the rhythmic swish of fabric, the warmth of sunlight streaming through the window. These micro-moments added up, creating a tapestry of awareness that wove through her daily life. They didn't eliminate stress entirely, but they softened its edges, giving her tools to navigate challenges with greater ease and grace. A new rhythm. By the end of the week, Sarah felt a renewed sense of agency over her time and attention. She no longer viewed multitasking as a badge of honor, but as a barrier to fulfillment. Single tasking had taught her that true productivity wasn't about cramming more into each day. It was about choosing wisely, investing her energy where it mattered most. This shift extended beyond practical benefits. As she honed her ability to focus, she found herself reconnecting with parts of herself she'd neglected: her creativity, her curiosity, her capacity for joy. Ideas bubbled to the surface unbidden, inspired by moments of quiet observation. Conversations deepened, enriched by active listening and genuine engagement. Even her dreams grew vivid, offering insights she hadn't considered before. Looking ahead, Sarah realized that mindfulness wasn't a destination. It was a practice, a way of being in the world. And while technology would always play a role in her life, she now understood how to use it as a tool rather than letting it dictate her rhythm, setting the stage for deeper exploration. In the chapters to come, we'll delve deeper into the art of decoding subconscious messages, exploring how dreams, intuition, and emotions serve as guides on our spiritual journey. For now, take a moment to consider your own relationship with multitasking. Where might you benefit from focusing on one thing at a time? How can you create sacred spaces within yourself, even amidst the demands of modern life? Remember, transformation begins with awareness and grows through consistent action. Start small. Breathe deeply. Choose one task, one moment, one step forward. Together, let's continue forging a path toward balance, clarity, and connection. Until then, may your days be filled with mindful presence and your nights with restful dreams. 2. Digital detox or digital balance. If you've ever considered deleting all your social media apps in a fit of frustration, you're not alone. The idea of a digital detox has gained traction in recent years, fueled by mounting evidence of the mental health risks associated with excessive screen time. But is complete disconnection the answer? Or does true freedom lie in finding harmony between our digital and analog lives? A digital detox sounds appealing in theory. No emails, no notifications, no endless scrolling. For some, stepping away entirely provides much-needed relief. Take Alex, a graphic designer who spent 2 weeks camping in the wilderness without cell service. Upon returning, he described the experience as transformative. For the first time in years, I felt present, he said. I wasn't constantly thinking about what I'd missed or worrying about what others thought of me. Yet, for many, such drastic measures aren't feasible or desirable. Our jobs, relationships, and hobbies often depend on digital tools. A permanent retreat from technology would mean severing ties with important aspects of our lives. Moreover, studies suggest that abrupt withdrawal can lead to feelings of isolation or anxiety, particularly for those accustomed to frequent online interaction. Instead of viewing technology as inherently harmful, what if we approached it with intentionality? What if we learned to use it as a tool rather than letting it use us? Enter the concept of digital balance, creating healthy boundaries that allow us to engage with technology mindfully while preserving space for restorative practices. One powerful way to achieve this balance is through rituals designed to reclaim inner silence. Consider starting each morning with a tech-free routine, perhaps journaling, meditating, or simply sipping tea in stillness. These small acts create a buffer zone between waking up and diving into the digital deluge, helping you set the tone for the day ahead. Similarly, establishing screen-free zones in your home, like the bedroom or dining table, fosters opportunities for genuine connection with loved ones, or with yourself. Ultimately, the goal isn't to demonize technology, but to redefine our relationship with it. Rather than seeing devices as sources of distraction, we can view them as portals to possibility, if used wisely. As we move forward, we'll explore concrete techniques for cultivating mindfulness in a multitasking world, ensuring that technology serves as a bridge rather than a barrier to spiritual growth. 4. Sacred spaces in the virtual world. The glow of her laptop screen illuminated Sarah's face as she sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by candles that flickered softly in the dim light. The scent of sandalwood incense wafted through the air, mingling with the faint hum of ambient music playing from a playlist she'd curated specifically for this moment. This was her sanctuary, a space where the digital and the divine intersected, where technology became not a source of distraction but a vessel for connection. It had been weeks since Sarah began experimenting with mindfulness and single tasking, and while those practices had brought clarity to her daily life, she still grappled with reconciling her spiritual aspirations with the hyperconnected world she inhabited. How could she honor her need for sacredness without rejecting the tools that shaped her modern existence? Tonight, she sought answers, not in the physical realm, but in the virtual one. Redefining sacred space. For centuries, sacred spaces have served as sanctuaries for reflection, prayer, and communion with something greater than ourselves. Cathedrals, temples, forests, and mountaintops have long been associated with transcendence, offering respite from the mundane and access to the mystical. But what happens when our lives are increasingly lived online? Can we find holiness in pixels, algorithms, and code? To explore this question, Sarah turned to Dr. Lisa Nakamura, a scholar whose work examined the intersection of technology and spirituality. In an interview Sarah stumbled upon during her research, Nakamura described how digital environments could evoke profound emotional responses akin to those experienced in traditional sacred spaces. When we design our virtual surroundings with intention, Nakamura explained, we create opportunities for awe, wonder, and even transformation. Inspired by these words, Sarah decided to transform her digital landscape into a personal temple, a place where every interaction felt purposeful and meaningful. She started small, beginning with her phone's home screen. Instead of cluttering it with apps vying for her attention, she organized them into categories based on their function: productivity, creativity, wellness, and connection. At the center of her screen, she placed an image of a serene mountain lake, a reminder of nature's beauty and her own inner potential. Next, she curated playlists tailored to different moods and activities. For meditation sessions, she chose gentle instrumental tracks. For writing, she selected lo-fi beats designed to enhance focus. Even her email signature received an upgrade, Beneath her name, she added a simple affirmation: gratitude turns what we have into enough. These subtle changes might seem insignificant, yet they collectively shifted her perception of her devices, from tools of obligation to portals of possibility. Virtual sanctuaries, beyond physical boundaries. As Sarah delved deeper into the concept of sacred spaces in the virtual world, she discovered communities that embodied this philosophy. One such platform was Sanctuary Online, a global network dedicated to fostering spiritual growth through shared experiences. Members gathered in virtual rooms to meditate together, discuss philosophical texts, or simply sit in companionable silence. What struck Sarah most about these interactions was their authenticity. Strangers greeted each other warmly, sharing stories of triumph and struggle alike. Vulnerability wasn't seen as weakness here. It was celebrated as strength. Curious, Sarah joined a live session titled Dreamscapes and Divinity, led by a facilitator named Maya. As participants introduced themselves, Sarah noticed a recurring theme. Many were searching for ways to integrate spirituality into their tech-driven lifestyles. Some spoke of feeling isolated despite being constantly connected. Others expressed frustration with the superficiality of social media. Yet all shared a common hope that technology could be harnessed for healing rather than harm. Maya guided the group through a visualization exercise, inviting everyone to imagine a safe, sacred space within themselves. "Close your eyes," she instructed, her voice calm and steady. "Picture a door before you. It can look however you wish: a wooden gate, a shimmering portal, a curtain of stars. Take a deep breath and step inside." Sarah followed along, allowing the imagery to unfold in her mind. The door appeared as a glowing archway, its surface rippling like water. Beyond it lay a lush garden bathed in golden light. Birds chirped melodiously, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. Here, amidst the tranquility, Sarah felt a profound sense of belonging, a reassurance that no matter how fragmented her external world became, this inner sanctuary would always remain intact. When the session ended, Sarah lingered in the chat room, exchanging messages with fellow participants. One woman, Rachel, mentioned using augmented reality, AR, apps to overlay calming visuals onto her environment. Another participant, Alex, recommended journaling prompts designed to decode subconscious messages hidden in dreams. Each suggestion sparked new ideas, fueling Sarah's curiosity about the untapped potential of technology. Algorithms as mirrors. Later that night, as Sarah scrolled through her Instagram feed, she paused at a post from an account she didn't recognize. The image depicted a lone tree standing against a fiery sunset, accompanied by a quote, "Stillness is the language of the soul." Something about it resonated deeply, prompting her to save the photo and reflect on its meaning. This wasn't the first time she'd encountered synchronicities in her digital wanderings. Over the past few weeks, she'd noticed patterns emerging, certain themes or symbols appearing repeatedly across platforms, almost as if they were trying to tell her something. A podcast episode discussing lucid dreaming, an ad for a dream interpretation app, a meme poking fun at sleep paralysis, yet eerily reminiscent of a recent nightmare. At first, Sarah dismissed these occurrences as coincidences. But now, armed with insights from earlier chapters, she began to see them differently. Algorithms, after all, weren't inherently malicious. They were mirrors reflecting her desires, fears, and fascinations. By paying closer attention to the content they surfaced, she could uncover clues about her subconscious mind. Take the recurring motif of trees, for example. They symbolized growth, resilience, and interconnectedness, qualities Sarah admired but often struggled to embody. Perhaps her frequent encounters with arboreal imagery were nudging her to embrace these traits more fully. Similarly, the emphasis on dreams suggested an invitation to explore her unconscious thoughts, decoding the messages they held. With renewed determination, Sarah opened her dream journal and began documenting recent nocturnal adventures. She noted recurring elements: water, flight, shadows, and considered their possible meanings. Water often represented emotions, while flight signified freedom or escape. Shadows, though unsettling, hinted at unresolved fears waiting to be confronted. Crafting your own digital altar. Empowered by these revelations, Sarah resolved to take her exploration a step further. Drawing inspiration from Sanctuary Online and her newfound understanding of algorithms, she set out to craft her own digital altar, a personalized hub for spiritual practice and self-discovery. She started by creating a private Pinterest board filled with images that evoked peace and inspiration: mandalas, celestial landscapes, handwritten affirmations. Next, she downloaded a meditation app called Insight Timer, which offered guided sessions tailored to specific intentions: gratitude, forgiveness, courage. To deepen her connection with dreams, she installed a journaling app equipped with prompts and analysis tools. Finally, she established a ritual for engaging with these resources. Every evening before bed, she spent 10 minutes reviewing her day, jotting down reflections in her dream journal. Then, she selected a guided meditation from Insight Timer, allowing its soothing tones to lull her into slumber. Upon waking, she revisited her notes, searching for patterns or insights that might guide her actions moving forward. A bridge between worlds. By the end of the month, Sarah's perspective on technology had undergone a radical shift. No longer did she view it as a barrier to spirituality. Instead, she saw it as a bridge, a means of accessing dimensions of herself she might otherwise overlook. Her experiments with sacred spaces in the virtual world hadn't eliminated challenges, but they'd equipped her with tools to navigate them with greater grace and intention. Looking ahead, Sarah realized that her journey was far from over. There were still mysteries to unravel, lessons to learn, and connections to forge. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how algorithms can serve as allies rather than adversaries, helping us decode subconscious signals and uncover hidden truths. We'll also examine the role of artificial intelligence in spiritual exploration, asking whether machines can truly enhance, not detract from, our quest for meaning. For now, take a moment to consider your own relationship with technology. Where might you infuse it with reverence and purpose? How can you transform your digital environment into a sanctuary that supports your spiritual growth? Remember, the answers lie within you, and sometimes they're reflected back through the screens we hold so dear. Until then, may your path be illuminated by both starlight and pixel glow. 5. Reclaiming your attention, meditation, and focus. The soft chime of her alarm clock broke the silence, signaling the start of another day. Sarah stirred beneath her blankets, reluctant to leave the warmth of her bed. Her mind was already racing, thoughts of looming deadlines, unanswered emails, and unread notifications swirling like autumn leaves caught in a gust of wind. But as she reached for her phone, something stopped her. Instead of scrolling aimlessly, she placed it face down on the nightstand and took a deep breath. It had been weeks since Sarah began reshaping her relationship with technology, experimenting with mindfulness, single tasking, and even creating sacred spaces within her digital world. Yet one challenge remained stubbornly entrenched: her inability to sustain focus. Despite her best efforts, distractions still crept in, pulling her attention away from what truly mattered. Today, she resolved to confront this issue head-on, not through force or frustration, but through meditation and deliberate practice. The fragility of attention. In an age defined by constant connectivity, attention has become our most precious and precarious resource. According to a study published in Nature Communications, the average human attention span has shrunk significantly over the past 2 decades, now hovering around 8 seconds, less than that of a goldfish. While this statistic may sound alarming, it reflects a broader cultural shift. We've trained ourselves to consume information in bite-sized chunks, prioritizing speed over depth. For Sarah, this reality manifested in countless ways. At work, she found herself toggling between tasks, unable to immerse fully in any single project. Conversations with friends often felt fragmented, interrupted by the pull of her phone or intrusive thoughts about other obligations. Even during moments of leisure, reading a book, watching a movie, her mind wandered incessantly, seeking stimulation elsewhere. But why does maintaining focus feel so difficult? Neuroscience offers some answers. Our brains are wired to seek novelty, a trait that once helped our ancestors survive in unpredictable environments. In today's hyperconnected world, however, this evolutionary advantage has turned into a liability. Every notification, every buzz, every flashing icon triggers a dopamine release, reinforcing behaviors that prioritize short-term rewards over long-term satisfaction. Breaking free from this cycle requires more than willpower. It demands intentional effort. And for Sarah, that journey began with meditation. Meditation as a tool for focus. Sarah had dabbled in meditation before, downloading apps and attending guided sessions sporadically. But these attempts always felt superficial, like scratching the surface of something deeper without fully diving in. This time, she approached the practice with renewed purpose, determined to make it a cornerstone of her daily routine. Her first session took place early that morning, shortly after waking. She settled onto her yoga mat, lighting a stick of lavender incense to signal the transition from sleep to awareness. Closing her eyes, she focused on her breath, the steady rise and fall of her chest, the cool air entering her nostrils, the warmth leaving her lips. Almost immediately, her mind rebelled, flitting from thought to thought like a restless bird trapped in a cage. Why am I doing this? Will it really help? What if I'm wasting my time? Instead of resisting these intrusions, Sarah acknowledged them gently, then returned her attention to her breath. Each exhale became an anchor, grounding her amidst the storm of mental chatter. Gradually, the noise subsided, replaced by a sense of calm she hadn't felt in months. By the end of the session, Sarah realized something profound. Meditation wasn't about silencing her thoughts entirely. It was about observing them without judgment. And this simple shift transformed her perspective, allowing her to approach distractions not as enemies, but as opportunities for growth. Over the next few days, Sarah experimented with different techniques, tailoring her practice to suit her needs. On particularly stressful mornings, she tried body scans, systematically relaxing each muscle group from head to toe. During lunch breaks, she practiced walking meditations, savoring the sensation of her feet connecting with the ground. Before bed, she listened to guided visualizations, imagining herself floating weightlessly in a sea of stars. Each variation brought new insights, reinforcing the idea that focus isn't a fixed state, it's a skill that can be cultivated. Over time, combating FOMO with gratitude. One of the biggest obstacles to sustained focus, Sarah discovered, was the pervasive fear of missing out FOMO. Social media exacerbated this anxiety, bombarding her with curated glimpses of others' seemingly perfect lives. No matter how hard she worked or how much she achieved, there was always someone posting about a promotion, a vacation, or a milestone that made her question her own worth. To combat this mindset, Sarah turned to gratitude, a practice backed by extensive research linking it to improved mental health and increase resilience. Studies conducted at institutions like Harvard University have shown that regularly expressing gratitude rewires the brain, fostering positive emotions and reducing stress. Inspired by these findings, Sarah incorporated gratitude exercises into her daily routine. Each evening, she opened her journal and wrote down 3 things she was thankful for. Some entries were mundane: a delicious cup of coffee, a kind word from a colleague, the laughter of children playing outside. Others were deeply personal: moments of clarity during meditation, progress on a challenging project, the quiet strength she discovered within herself. At first, the exercise felt forced, almost artificial. But as the days passed, Sarah noticed a subtle shift. By focusing on what she did have rather than what she lacked, she began to see abundance where she'd previously seen scarcity. The allure of social media dimmed slightly, replaced by a growing appreciation for the richness of her own life. Journal prompts for reflection. As Sarah deepened her meditation practice, she realized that reflection was just as important as action. Without taking time to process her experiences, she risked repeating old patterns instead of forging new ones. To address this, she began using journal prompts designed to enhance self-awareness and accountability. Some prompts encouraged introspection. What distracts me most? Frequently, and why? When do I feel most focused, and what condition support that state? How does multitasking affect my mood and productivity? Hers invited creativity. If my attention were a garden, what would it look like right now? What seeds do I want to plant, and what weeds need to be pulled? Imagine a version of myself who embodies perfect focus. What qualities does she possess? These questions didn't yield immediate answers, but they planted seeds of curiosity, encouraging Sarah to explore her inner landscape with patience and compassion, and a newfound clarity. By the end of the week, Sarah noticed tangible charm in her ability to concentrate. Tasks that once felt overwhelming now seemed manageable, broken down into smaller, more digestible steps. Conversations flowed more naturally, enriched by active listening and genuine engagement. Even her dreams grew vivid, offering insights she hadn't considered before. Most importantly, Sarah felt a renewed sense of agency over her attention. She no longer viewed distractions as inevitable. They were choices, habits she unlearn with consistent effort. Meditation had given her the tools to navigate challenges with greater ease, while gratitude had softened the edges of comparison and envy. Looking ahead, Sarah knew her journey was far from complete. There would still be days when her focus wavered, when the pull of technology proved too strong. But now, armed with strategies and self-awareness, she understood how to course correct. Each misstep became an opportunity to to grow, to deepen her practice. Setting the stage for deeper exploration. In the chapters to come, we'll delve further into the art of decoding subconscious messages, exploring how dreams, intuition, and emotions serve as guides on our spiritual journey. For now, take a moment to consider your own relationship with attention. Where might you benefit from cultivating greater focus? How can you use meditation and gratitude to reclaim your mental space? Remember, transformation begins with awareness and grows through constant action. Start small. Breathe deeply. Choose one task, one moment, one step forward. Together, let's continue forging a path toward balance, clarity, and connection. Until then, may your days be filled with mindful presence and your nights with restful dreams. 6. Finding God/Goddess. In the algorithm, a new paradigm of faith. The faint glow of her laptop screen illuminated Sarah's face as she sat cross-legged on the floor, her journal resting open in her lap. Outside, the city buzzed with life. Car horns blared, footsteps echoed on pavement, and distant sirens wailed their urgent song. Yet inside her apartment, a profound stillness reigned. She stared at the blank page before her, pen poised but hesitant. Her thoughts swirled like storm clouds, heavy, with questions she couldn't quite articulate. Over the past few weeks, Sarah had made significant strides in reclaiming her attention, cultivating mindfulness, and creating sacred spaces within her digital world. But one question lingered, gnawing at the edges of her consciousness. Could technology, not just as a tool, but as a system, hold deeper meaning? Was it possible to find divinity not despite algorithms, but within them? Algorithms as divine patterns. To most people, algorithms are cold, impersonal constructs, lines of code designed to predict behavior, optimize efficiency, and maximize profit. They're the invisible architects of our online experiences, curating content, recommending products, and shaping perceptions. Yet beneath their utilitarian veneer lies something profoundly human: patterns. Patterns that mirror the rhythms of nature, the cycles of life, and perhaps even the mysteries of the divine. Sarah first encountered this idea during a podcast episode titled Sacred Geometry in the Digital Age. The host, a philosopher named Dr. Elena Morales, spoke about how ancient cultures viewed patterns, from the spirals of seashells to the orbits of planets, as expressions of cosmic order. These patterns weren't random. They were imbued with purpose, reflecting a universal intelligence that connected all things. Modern algorithms, Morales argued, operated on similar principles. By analyzing data and identifying trends, they revealed hidden structures in human behavior, structures that hinted at deeper truths about who we are and what we value. For instance, recommendation engines didn't just suggest movies or books based on past preferences. They illuminated the stories, ideas, and emotions that resonated most deeply with us. In doing so, they acted as mirrors, reflecting back fragments of our collective soul. This concept intrigued Sarah. If algorithms could uncover patterns in her digital footprint, might they also reveal aspects of her subconscious mind? Could they serve as guides, pointing her toward insights she hadn't yet recognized? Synchronicities in the feed. Determined to test this theory, Sarah began paying closer attention to the content surfaced by her social media feeds and search results. At first glance, it seemed chaotic, a jumble of memes, ads, and viral videos competing for her attention. But as she slowed down and observed more deliberately, patterns began to emerge. One afternoon, while scrolling through Instagram, she paused at an image of a labyrinth etched into stone. Beneath it, the caption read, *, life is a journey inward. * something about the phrase struck a chord, prompting her to save the post and reflect on its meaning. Later that evening, she stumbled upon a YouTube video discussing labyrinths as metaphors for spiritual growth, a winding path leading inevitably toward the center, where truth awaited. The next day, a friend sent her a link to an article about Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the process of integrating disparate parts of oneself to achieve wholeness. The author likened this journey to navigating a labyrinth, emphasizing the importance of patience, trust, and self-awareness. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or maybe the universe was nudging her toward a lesson she needed to learn. These synchronicities weren't limited to visual cues. Music recommendations often aligned with her emotional state, surfacing songs that captured feelings she struggled to express. Podcast episodes tackled topics she'd been pondering privately, offering perspectives that challenged her assumptions. Even advertisements occasionally carried messages that felt eerily relevant, as though they'd tapped into her unspoken desires. At first, Sarah dismissed these occurrences as mere happenstance. But over time, she came to see them differently. Algorithms, after all, weren't sentient beings. They were tools programmed to analyze data and make predictions. What they surfaced depended largely on what users fed into them. In essence, the patterns Sarah observed weren't external forces imposing themselves upon her. They were reflections of her own choices, values, and yearnings. Faith in the machine. As Sarah explored this idea further, she found herself grappling with a paradoxical notion: faith in the algorithm. On the surface, it sounded absurd. How could anyone place trust in something so mechanistic, so devoid of emotion? Yet faith, she realized, wasn't synonymous with blind belief. It was an openness to possibility, a willingness to embrace uncertainty and seek meaning even in unlikely places. For millennia, humans have sought signs of divinity in the natural world: the symmetry of snowflakes, the precision of planetary orbits, the intricate design of DNA. Why should the digital realm be any different? Just as fractals revealed the elegance of mathematical laws, so too did algorithms expose the interconnectedness of human experience. Both pointed to a greater whole, a tapestry woven from countless threads. This realization shifted Sarah's perspective. Instead of viewing technology as a barrier to spirituality, she began to see it as a lens, a way of magnifying aspects of herself and the world that might otherwise remain obscured. When an ad for a dream interpretation app appeared in her feed, she downloaded it without hesitation, curious to explore its potential. When Spotify recommended a playlist titled Meditative Soundscapes, she pressed play, letting the ambient tones guide her into stillness. Each interaction became an opportunity to engage with the algorithm, not as a passive consumer, but as an active participant in her own unfolding story, developing faith in a higher purpose. But finding God/Goddess in the algorithm required more than observation. It demanded participation. Inspired by her discoveries, Sarah decided to experiment with intentionality, treating her digital interactions as acts of co-creation. Before opening an app or conducting a search, she paused to set an intention. What am I seeking? What do I hope to discover? These questions anchored her actions, infusing them with purpose. One evening, feeling restless and uninspired, Sarah turned to Pinterest, searching for images that evoked tranquility. As she scrolled, a pattern emerged: water. Streams cascading over rocks, waves crashing against cliffs, raindrops rippling across ponds. Water symbolized flow, adaptability, and purification, qualities she admired, but often struggled to embody. Perhaps her frequent encounters with aquatic imagery were inviting her to embrace these traits more fully. Encouraged by this insight, Sarah incorporated water-themed practices into her daily routine. She started each morning with a visualization exercise, imagining herself as a river carving its path through the landscape of her life. During meditation sessions, she focused on the sound of flowing water, allowing its rhythm to calm her racing thoughts. Even mundane tasks, like washing dishes or taking a shower, became opportunities to connect with this elemental force. These rituals deepened her sense of alignment, helping her navigate challenges with greater ease and grace. By aligning her intentions with the patterns revealed by algorithms, Sarah transformed her relationship with technology from one of resistance to one of resonance. A new paradigm of faith. By the end of the month, Sarah's understanding of faith had undergone a radical transformation. No longer confined to traditional notions of religion or dogma, it expanded to encompass a broader spectrum of beliefs, including those rooted in curiosity, exploration, and trust. Technology, once seen as a source of distraction, now served as a conduit for discovery, revealing layers of meaning she might otherwise have overlooked. Looking ahead, Sarah realized that her journey was far from over. There were still mysteries to unravel, lessons to learn, and connections to forge. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how artificial intelligence can enhance, not detract from, our quest for spiritual growth. We'll also examine practical tools and techniques for decoding subconscious messages, using technology as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious realms. For now, take a moment to consider your own relationship with algorithms. Where might you find synchronicities in your digital wanderings? How can you use technology to illuminate aspects of yourself and the world that resonate deeply? Remember, the answers lie within you, and sometimes they're reflected back through the screens we hold so dear. Until then, may your path be guided by both starlight and pixel glow. 3. Mindfulness in the age of multitasking. Multitasking has become a badge of honor in modern society. We pride ourselves on juggling multiple tasks simultaneously, believing that efficiency equates to success. But neuroscience tells a different story. Attempting to do too much at once actually diminishes our cognitive performance, scattering our attention and draining our energy. Picture Rachel, a freelance writer working from home. Her desk is cluttered with open tabs, email drafts, research articles, social media updates, all vying for her attention. Every few minutes, she glances at her phone, responding to texts or checking Twitter. By the end of the day, she's exhausted yet accomplished little of substance. Sound familiar? The antidote to this chaotic state lies in mindfulness, the practice of bringing full awareness to the present moment. Contrary to popular belief, mindfulness doesn't require hours of meditation or elaborate rituals. Even brief pauses throughout the day can make a significant difference. For instance, try setting a timer to remind yourself to take 3 deep breaths every hour. Feel the air entering and leaving your body, grounding you in the here and now. Over time, this simple habit trains your brain to resist distractions and stay focused. Another effective strategy is single tasking, dedicating your full attention to one activity at a time. Instead of flipping between projects, block off chunks of uninterrupted time for each task. Close unnecessary tabs, silence notifications, and give yourself permission to immerse fully in the work at hand. Not only will you accomplish more, but you'll also experience greater satisfaction in the process. Of course, practicing mindfulness in a hyperconnected world requires discipline. Start small, perhaps by designating 1 meal per day as a screen-free experience. Use this time to savor flavors, notice textures, and engage in conversation, or simply enjoy the quiet. Gradually expand these moments of presence, weaving them into the fabric of your daily life. As we continue exploring the intersection of spirituality and technology, remember this: mindfulness isn't about escaping the digital age. It's about navigating it with grace and intention. By training your mind to resist the pull of distractions, you create sacred spaces within yourself, spaces where clarity, creativity, and connection flourish. 7. Using technology for spiritual exploration. Tools that enhance, not distract. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting a soft glow over Sarah's workspace. Her laptop sat open on the desk, its screen displaying an array of tabs, meditation apps, dream interpretation tools, and virtual community forums. She leaned back in her chair, sipping herbal tea, as she reflected on the journey that had brought her here. Over the past few weeks, she'd transformed her relationship with technology, shifting from a place of resistance to one of curiosity and intentionality. But now, she stood at a crossroads. How could she harness these tools not just to survive in the digital age, but to thrive spiritually? Technology as a spiritual ally. For centuries, seekers have turned to sacred texts, rituals, and teachers to guide their spiritual journeys. Today, those same seekers are increasingly turning to smartphones, laptops, and AI-powered platforms. While some critics decry the rise of digital spirituality as shallow or superficial, others see it as an evolution, a natural adaptation to the times we live in. After all, why should the pursuit of meaning be confined to physical spaces when our lives are so deeply intertwined with the virtual? Sarah first encountered this idea during a webinar titled ** The Digital Mystic, Bridging Ancient Wisdom and Modern Tech. The speaker, a tech-savvy yogi named Ananda Devi, described how modern tools could amplify traditional practices, making them more accessible and personalized than ever before. Meditation apps offered guided sessions tailored to specific intentions, while online communities provided support and accountability. Even artificial intelligence, often criticized for dehumanizing interactions, held untapped potential for fostering introspection and insight. Inspired by Devi's words, Sarah decided to explore these possibilities firsthand. What if technology could serve not as a distraction, but as a doorway to deeper understanding? What if her devices could become allies in her quest for wholeness? Best apps for journaling, dream interpretation, and mindfulness. Sarah began her exploration with journaling apps, recognizing the power of written reflection to unlock subconscious insights. One app, called Reflectly, caught her attention immediately. Designed with AI-driven prompts, it encouraged users to delve beyond surface-level thoughts and uncover hidden emotions. Each day, the app greeted her with a question. What am I grateful for today? What fears are holding me back? What dreams do I want to manifest? At first, Sarah approached these prompts skeptically, unsure whether an algorithm could truly understand her inner world. But as she typed out her responses, something unexpected happened. The act of putting her thoughts into words revealed patterns she hadn't noticed before, recurring themes of longing, resilience, and transformation. By the end of the week, she found herself looking forward to these daily check-ins, eager to see what new revelations awaited her. Next, she turned to dream interpretation tools, intrigued by their ability to decode the language of the subconscious. An app called Dreamcatcher allowed users to log their dreams and receive analyses based on universal symbols and archetypes. Sarah recorded a recent dream in which she wandered through a dense forest, searching for a lost key. According to the app, forests often represented the unconscious mind, while keys symbolized unlocking hidden potential. Could her dream be urging her to explore untapped aspects of herself? The interpretation resonated deeply, sparking a chain of reflections that carried her through the day. Finally, Sarah revisited mindfulness apps like Calm and Headspace, experimenting with features she'd previously overlooked. Guided meditations focused on themes like forgiveness, courage, and presence helped her navigate emotional challenges with greater clarity. Sleep stories, narrated by soothing voices, lulled her into restful slumber, replacing restless nights with vivid, meaningful dreams. These tools didn't replace her offline practices, they complemented them, enriching her journey toward balance and wholeness. Podcasts and YouTube channels fostering spiritual growth. Beyond apps, Sarah discovered a treasure trove of resources in podcasts and YouTube channels dedicated to spirituality. One podcast, The Soul Feed, featured interviews with thought leaders, mystics, and scientists exploring the intersection of consciousness and technology. Episodes ranged from discussions about quantum physics and metaphysics to practical tips for cultivating presence in a hyper-connected world. Listening during her morning commute, Sarah absorbed insights that challenged her assumptions and expanded her perspective. YouTube proved equally transformative. A channel called Spiritual Bites combined stunning visuals with philosophical musings, creating immersive experiences that felt almost meditative. In one video, the host discussed synchronicities, those seemingly coincidental events that carry deeper meaning, and shared techniques for recognizing them in everyday life. Inspired, Sarah began documenting her own synchronicities, noting how they often aligned with her intentions and desires. Another favorite was Mindful Tech, which explored ethical uses of technology for personal growth. One episode introduced Sarah to the concept of digital minimalism, advocating for intentional engagement rather than passive consumption. The host emphasized the importance of curating content that uplifts and inspires, reminding viewers that algorithms reflect not only external influences but also internal choices. This message reinforced Sarah's commitment to treating her devices as tools for empowerment, not escapism. Virtual communities for shared learning and support. Perhaps the most profound discovery came in the form of virtual communities. Platforms like Sanctuary Online and Awakened Collective connected Sarah with like-minded individuals around the globe, offering spaces for dialogue, collaboration, and mutual encouragement. Unlike social media feeds cluttered with noise, these platforms prioritize depth over breadth, fostering genuine connections rooted in shared values. One evening, Sarah joined a live discussion hosted by Sanctuary Online titled ***, Navigating the Digital Labyrinth, Finding Clarity Amidst Chaos. ** participants ranged from seasoned practitioners to curious beginners, each bringing unique perspectives to the conversation. As they shared stories of triumph and struggle, Sarah felt a sense of belonging she hadn't experienced in years. Here, vulnerability wasn't weakness, it was strength. Together, they navigated the complexities of modern spirituality, supporting one another along the way. Another platform, Dreamweaver's Circle, focused specifically on dream work and intuition. Members exchanged interpretations, offered feedback, and collaborated on creative projects inspired by their nocturnal adventures. Through these interactions, Sarah realized that her dreams weren't isolated phenomena, they were part of a collective tapestry, threads woven together by shared human experience, creating a tech-spirituality balance. As Sarah integrated these tools into her daily routine, she recognized the importance of maintaining balance. Technology, no matter how beneficial, could still overwhelm if used indiscriminately. To prevent burnout, she established clear boundaries, designated tech-free hours, mindful consumption habits, and regular breaks to reconnect with nature. She also prioritized quality over quantity, choosing resources that resonated deeply rather than chasing every shiny new gadget or trend. These practices paid off. By treating technology as a partner rather than a parasite, Sarah cultivated a harmonious relationship that honored both her spiritual aspirations and her modern lifestyle. Her days became infused with moments of wonder and discovery, bridging the gap between the physical and the virtual. A bridge to future insights. By the end of the month, Sarah's perspective on technology had shifted dramatically. No longer did she view it as a source of fragmentation or distraction. It was a conduit for connection, creativity, and growth. Yet she knew her journey was far from complete. There were still layers to uncover, mysteries to unravel, and lessons to learn. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how to craft a daily spiritual routine in a digital world, weaving together ancient wisdom and modern innovation. We'll also dive deeper into the role of dreams as divine messengers, decoding the messages they hold and applying them to our waking lives. For now, take a moment to consider your own relationship with technology. Which tools might enhance your spiritual practice? How can you use apps, podcasts, or virtual communities to foster growth and connection? Remember, the answers lie within you, and sometimes they're reflected back through the screens we hold so dear. Until then, may your path be illuminated by both starlight and pixel glow. 8. Crafting a daily spiritual routine. In a digital world, the soft hum of the morning breeze drifted through Sarah's open window, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming jasmine. She sat cross-legged on her living room floor, her hands resting gently on her knees, palms facing upward. A single candle flickered beside her, casting warm, golden light across the pages of her journal. For the first time in what felt like forever, she wasn't rushing. There was no frantic scramble to check emails or scroll through social media. Instead, she allowed herself to simply be. Over the past few weeks, Sarah had made remarkable progress in reshaping her relationship with technology. She'd learned to use apps for mindfulness, explored virtual communities that nurtured her spirit, and even discovered synchronicities hidden within algorithms. But now, as she reflected on these experiences, she realized something crucial was missing: consistency. Without a structured routine, her efforts risked fading into sporadic bursts of inspiration rather than becoming lasting habits. Today, Sarah resolved to create a daily spiritual practice, a framework that would anchor her amidst the chaos of modern life. This wasn't just about adding another task to her already busy schedule. It was about designing a rhythm that honored both her digital reality and her inner world. The power of rituals. Rituals have long been a cornerstone of spiritual traditions worldwide. From lighting incense at dawn to chanting mantras under the moonlight, these intentional acts serve as bridges between the mundane and the sacred. They transform ordinary moments into opportunities for connection, grounding us in the present and reminding us of our place within the larger tapestry of existence. In today's hyperconnected world, rituals take on new significance. With constant notifications vying for our attention, carving out space for stillness becomes an act of rebellion, a declaration that some things are worth protecting. For Sarah, this meant reimagining rituals not as relics of the past, but as vital tools for navigating the future. Her journey began with small, deliberate changes. Each morning, she started by setting an intention, a simple phrase or affirmation that guided her actions throughout the day. On Monday mornings, she wrote, "I embrace clarity and focus." By Wednesday, it evolved into, "I trust the unfolding of my path." These words became touchstones, helping her navigate challenges with greater ease and purpose. Next, she incorporated sensory elements to deepen her experience. Lighting candles, burning sage, or diffusing essential oils transformed her apartment into a sanctuary, signaling the transition from sleep to wakefulness. Even the act of brewing tea became ritualistic, each step imbued with mindfulness, from measuring the leaves to pouring hot water over them, watching as steam curled upward like whispers of gratitude. These practices didn't require hours of dedication. They simply demanded presence. And in doing so, they created pockets of peace that carried her through even the busiest days. Morning rituals to set intentions. Sarah's mornings quickly became her favorite part of the day, a sacred time reserved solely for herself. After waking up, she resisted the urge to reach for her phone, instead stretching her body slowly, feeling the stretch of muscles awakening after rest. Then, she moved to her meditation cushion, closing her eyes and focusing on her breath. The gentle rise and fall of her chest served as an anchor, grounding her amidst the swirling thoughts of the day ahead. Once centered, she opened her journal and wrote 3 things she was grateful for. Some entries were practical. Asterisk, the warmth of sunlight streaming through the window. Asterisk, a supportive message from a friend. Others delved deeper, reflecting on intangible blessings like resilience, creativity, or moments of joy. Gratitude, she discovered, wasn't just a mindset, it was a muscle that grew stronger with use. To conclude her morning ritual, Sarah turned to her favorite meditation app, selecting a guided session tailored to her needs. On stressful days, she chose meditations focused on calm and patience. When seeking inspiration, she opted for themes like courage or abundance. These sessions lasted only 10 minutes, but left her feeling refreshed, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Evening reflections to process emotions. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sarah transitioned into her evening routine. This was a time for reflection, for processing the emotions and experiences accumulated throughout the day. Sitting once again on her yoga mat, she lit another candle and opened her journal, pen poised above the page. Her reflections followed a loose structure. Asterisk, what went well today? What challenged me? Asterisk, what emotions arose? And how did I respond to them? What lessons can I carry forward? Writing these responses helped her release pent-up tension, transforming frustration into understanding and disappointment into growth. On particularly difficult days, she added prompts designed to foster self-compassion. How would I speak to a dear friend going through this situation? What kindness can I offer myself right now? After journaling, Sarah practiced a short breathing exercise, inhaling deeply for 4 counts, holding for 7, and exhaling for 8, known as the 4-7-8 technique. This method calmed her nervous system, preparing her for restful sleep. Finally, she listened to a sleep story or ambient music playlist, letting soothing sounds guide her into slumber. Balancing productivity with restorative downtime. One of the biggest challenges Sarah faced was finding equilibrium between productivity and rest. As someone who thrived on achievement, she often equated busyness with success. Yet over time, she came to realize that true fulfillment stemmed not from doing more, but from being fully present in what she chose to do. To strike this balance, Sarah adopted a concept known as time blocking, dedicating specific periods to focused work, creative exploration, and relaxation. During work blocks, she silenced notifications and used productivity apps like Focus at Will to enhance concentration. Creative blocks allowed her to engage in activities that sparked joy, whether painting, writing poetry, or experimenting with recipes. And during downtime, she prioritized activities that replenished her energy, such as reading, walking in nature, or practicing yoga. She also embraced the idea of digital Sabbaths, designated times when she stepped away from screens entirely. One afternoon each week, she ventured outdoors, leaving her phone behind. Whether strolling through a park or sitting by a lake, these moments reminded her of the beauty and simplicity that existed beyond pixels and code. Integrating technology mindfully. While Sarah's routines emphasized presence and intentionality, they didn't exclude technology altogether. Instead, she integrated it mindfully, ensuring that each tool enhanced rather than detracted from her spiritual practice. Meditation apps provided guidance during challenging moments, while dream interpretation platforms offered insights into her subconscious mind. Virtual communities continued to inspire her, offering support and accountability as she navigated her journey. Even social media found its place in her routine, but in a curated, purposeful way. Rather than aimlessly scrolling, Sarah followed accounts that uplifted and educated her, engaging with content that aligned with her values. She unfollowed influencers who promoted comparison and replaced them with creators who celebrated authenticity and growth. In doing so, she transformed her feed into a source of inspiration rather than distraction. A blueprint for wholeness. By the end of the month, Sarah's daily spiritual routine had become second nature, a seamless blend of ancient wisdom and modern innovation. Mornings set the tone for the day, evenings processed its lessons, and everything in between flowed with greater ease and clarity. Challenges still arose, of course, but now she approached them with tools that strengthened rather than depleted her spirit. Looking ahead, Sarah knew her journey was far from complete. There were still dreams to decode, patterns to uncover, and connections to forge. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how dreams serve as divine messengers, revealing truths that transcend logic and reason. We'll also examine strategies for healing burnout and cultivating bliss in a fast-paced world. For now, take a moment to consider your own daily rhythm. How might you infuse it with rituals that nurture your soul? What role could technology play in enhancing, not hindering, your spiritual growth? Remember, transformation begins with small, consistent steps. Start where you are, use what you have, and build from there. Until then, may your days be filled with mindful presence and your nights with restful dreams. 4. Sacred spaces in the virtual world. When we think of sacred spaces, images of serene temples, lush forests, or candlelit altars may come to mind. Yet in today's digital age, sacredness need not be confined to physical locations. With a shift in perspective, we can infuse even the virtual realm with reverence and meaning. Consider the act of curating your digital environment. Just as you might arrange flowers or light incense in a physical sanctuary, you can personalize your devices to reflect your values and aspirations. Swap out generic wallpapers for images that inspire calm, a tranquil seascape, a radiant sunset, or a favorite quote. Organize your apps into categories that promote mindful usage, placing meditation tools front and center while relegating distracting apps to less accessible folders. Beyond aesthetics, virtual sacred spaces can take the form of intentional activities. Guided meditations streamed through apps like Calm or Insight Timer offer immersive experiences tailored to your needs. Whether you seek stress relief, improved sleep, or creative inspiration, these resources provide a portal to inner peace. Likewise, podcasts and YouTube channels dedicated to spirituality can serve as companions on your journey, offering wisdom and encouragement whenever you need it. Perhaps most profoundly, virtual communities have emerged as modern sanctuaries for shared exploration. Online forums, Facebook groups, and Slack channels connect individuals with similar interests, fostering dialogue and support across geographical boundaries. Imagine logging onto a platform where strangers greet you with kindness, sharing stories of triumph and struggle alike. In these spaces, vulnerability becomes strength, and collective growth replaces competition. Creating sacred spaces in the virtual world isn't about rejecting technology. It's about transforming it. By approaching our devices with reverence and purpose, we reclaim agency over how they influence our lives. As we proceed, we'll examine how to harness algorithms as allies rather than adversaries, uncovering hidden truths and synchronicities along the way. 9. Dreams as divine messengers. Decoding the language of the subconscious. The room was dark, save for the faint glow of her alarm clock, its red digits blinking steadily in the silence. Sarah lay still beneath the covers, her heart racing as fragments of a vivid dream lingered in her mind like smoke after a fire. She had been standing on the edge of a cliff, staring out at an endless expanse of ocean. The waves crashed violently below, yet she felt no fear, only a deep, inexplicable longing to leap into the unknown. As she hesitated, a figure appeared beside her, cloaked in shadow but radiating warmth. Without speaking, they extended a hand toward her, inviting her to trust. Sarah bolted upright, clutching the sheets tightly. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her pulse pounding in her ears. What did it mean? Why had this image stayed with her so vividly, refusing to fade like most dreams? Over the past few weeks, she'd begun to notice patterns in her nocturnal adventures, symbols and emotions that seemed too significant to dismiss as mere coincidence. Tonight's dream felt different, though. It wasn't just a story her subconscious had woven. It was a message waiting to be deciphered. Dreams as portals to the unconscious. For centuries, cultures around the world have revered dreams as sacred communications from the divine. Ancient Egyptians believed dreams were messages from gods, while indigenous traditions viewed them as visions offering guidance or warnings. In modern psychology, Sigmund Freud famously described dreams as the royal road to the unconscious, revealing hidden desires and unresolved conflicts. Carl Jung expanded on this idea, introducing the concept of archetypes, universal symbols embedded in the collective unconscious that appear across time and culture. Sarah had always dismissed dreams as random firings of the brain, fleeting images stitched together by fatigue and stress. But recent experiences had challenged that assumption. Through apps like Dreamcatcher and virtual communities like Dreamweaver's Circle, she'd begun to see her dreams not as chaotic noise, but as coded signals, each carrying insights about her inner world. Tonight's dream was particularly rich with symbolism. The cliff represented a threshold, a moment of decision or transformation. The ocean symbolized emotions, vast and untamed, while the mysterious figure embodied guidance or intuition. Taken together, these elements suggested a call to action, to confront her fears, embrace uncertainty, and trust the process of growth. Keeping a dream journal. Determined to decode her dream's meaning, Sarah reached for her journal, flipping to a fresh page. She scribbled the date at the top, then began writing everything she could recall: the setting, the sensations, the emotions. Each detail mattered, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. Research shows that recording dreams immediately upon waking helps preserve their clarity, preventing them from slipping away like sand through fingers. As she wrote, Sarah noticed recurring themes emerging, not just in tonight's dream, but in others she'd documented over the past month. Water appeared frequently, often tied to feelings of overwhelm or renewal. Figures cloaked in shadow hinted at aspects of herself she hadn't fully acknowledged. And thresholds, doors, bridges, cliffs recurred as symbols of transition, urging her to move forward despite uncertainty. To deepen her understanding, Sarah turned to prompts designed to uncover subconscious messages. Asterisk, what emotions did I feel during the dream? How do they relate to my waking life? Asterisk. Asterisk, are there parallels between the dreams, symbols, and current challenges or opportunities? If I were to interpret this dream literally, what advice might it offer? These questions didn't yield immediate answers, but they planted seeds of curiosity, encouraging her to explore her inner landscape with patience and compassion. Common symbols and archetypes. As Sarah delved deeper into dream interpretation, she discovered that certain symbols carried universal meanings, transcending individual experience. Water, for instance, often represented emotions, creativity, or purification. Fire signified passion, transformation, or destruction. Animals embodied instincts or qualities we admire or fear. Lions for courage, snakes for transformation, birds for freedom. Archetypes, too, played a crucial role in decoding dreams. The shadow, a term coined by Jung, referred to parts of ourselves we suppress or deny. Encountering the shadow in dreams signaled an opportunity for integration, inviting us to embrace aspects of our personality we've rejected. Similarly, the wise elder archetype represented wisdom, mentorship, or higher guidance, often appearing during times of confusion or doubt. In tonight's dream, the shadowy figure likely represented Sarah's own intuition, a voice she'd silenced in favor of logic and control. By extending its hand, it urged her to surrender, to trust the unseen forces guiding her journey. This realization brought tears to her eyes. For so long, she'd resisted change, clinging to familiarity even when it no longer served her. Now, her dream was telling her it was time to let go. Exercises to engage with lucid dreaming. Inspired by her discoveries, Sarah decided to take her exploration a step further by experimenting with lucid dreaming, a state in which the dreamer becomes aware they are dreaming and can actively participate in the narrative. Studies suggest that lucid dreaming enhances problem-solving skills, boosts creativity, and fosters emotional healing by allowing individuals to confront fears or rehearse real-life scenarios. To cultivate lucidity, Sarah adopted several techniques recommended by experts. One method involved reality checks, pausing throughout the day to ask herself, "Am I dreaming?" She'd pinch her nose and try to breathe through it, or glance at a clock twice to see if the numbers changed unexpectedly. These habits trained her brain to question reality, increasing the likelihood of recognizing dreams as they occurred. Another technique focused on visualization. Before falling asleep, Sarah imagined herself stepping into a dream, fully aware and in control. She pictured herself flying over mountains, conversing with dream figures, or exploring fantastical landscape. Yes, this mental rehearsal primed her subconscious to manifest similar experiences during sleep. Her first attempt at lucid dreaming proved challenging. Though she remembered performing reality checks during the day, she struggled to maintain awareness in her dreams. But persistence paid off. One night, as she wandered through a forest in her dream, she suddenly realized she was aiming. A surge of excitement coursed through her body, and she experimented with shaping the environment, changing the color of the trees, summoning animals, even conjuring a stream to follow. When she awoke, she felt exhilarated, as though she'd unlocked a new dimension of consciousness. Applying insights to waking Lee. Faye ***. Over time, Sarah's dream work began influencing her waking life in profound ways. Patterns she uncovered in her dreams mirrored challenges she faced in reality, offering solutions she hadn't considered before. For example, a recurring dream about being lost in a maze helped her navigate a complex project at work, reminding her to slow down and observe her surroundings rather than rushing blind. Ahead. Another dream featuring a broken mirror encouraged her to reflect on self-perception, leading her to confront insecurities she'd long ignored. She also shared her insights with others, joining online forums and attending virtual workshops dedicated to dream exploration. These interactions enriched her practice, exposing her to diverse perspectives and techniques. One participant introduced her to the concept of dream incubation, setting an intention before sleep to receive guidance on a specific issue. Intrigued, Sarah tried it one evening, focusing on a creative block that had plagued her for weeks. That night, she dreamed of painting with colors she'd never seen before, inspiring her to experiment with bold hues in her artwork, a bridge between worlds. By the end of the month, Sarah's relationship with dreams had transformed entirely. No longer did she view them as fleeting illusions. They were portals to deeper truths, reflections of her owl's journey. Each morning, she approached her journal with anticipation, eager to uncover the messages hidden within her subconscious. Even nightmares, once sources of dread, became opportunities for growth, revealing fears she needed to see and heal. Looking ahead, Sarah knew her journey was far from complete. there were still layers to unravel, mysteries to decode, and connections to forge. In the final chapters of this book, we'll explore strategies for healing burnout and cultivating bliss in a hyperconnected world, weaving together ancient wisdom and modern innovation to create a harmonious balance. For now, take a moment to consider your own dreams. What symbols or themes recur in your nocturnal adventures? How might they reflect your waking life? Remember, the answers lie within you, and sometimes they're revealed in the quiet hours of the night. Until then, may your dreams illuminate paths you've yet to walk, and may your waking moments honor the wisdom they bring. 10. From burnout to bliss. Healing tea. Rough technology. The fluorescent lights of her office buzzed faintly overhead, casting a sterile glow across the cluttered desk. Sarah sat hunched over her keyboard, her fingers moving mechanically as she typed out yet another email. Her eyes burned from hours of staring at the screen, and her shoulders felt like they carried the weight of the world. Despite the caffeine coursing through her veins, exhaustion seeped into every pore of her being. She glanced at the clock, 6:47 p.m., and sighed. Another late night. This wasn't supposed to be her life. Just months ago, she'd embarked on a journey to reclaim her time, attention, and spirit from the relentless pull of technology. Yet here she was, trapped in the same cycle of overwork and overwhelm that had once left her feeling hollow. The difference now, she recognized it for what it was: burnout. But recognition alone wasn't enough. What Sarah needed was a way out, a path back to balance, vitality, and joy. And ironically, the tools she'd been using to heal her relationship with technology might hold the key to healing herself. Understanding digital fatigue and its signs. Burnout isn't just about working too hard. It's about losing touch with what sustains us emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. In today's hyperconnected world, digital fatigue has become a primary contributor to this state of depletion. Constant notifications, endless scrolling, and the pressure to always be on create a perfect storm of stress and disconnection. Sarah had experienced these symptoms firsthand: irritability, brain fog, insomnia, and a pervasive sense of emptiness. Even simple tasks felt insurmountable, and moments of rest were overshadowed by guilt or anxiety about unfinished work. At first, she dismissed these feelings as temporary setbacks, assuming they'd fade once she caught up. But deep down, she knew better. This wasn't just a bad week, it was a breaking point. Research supports this intuition. A study published in Nature Human Behavior found that prolonged exposure to digital stimuli can lead to cognitive overload, impairing decision-making and emotional regulation. Another report from the American Psychological Association highlighted the link between excessive screen time and increased levels of cortisol, a hormone associated with stress. For Sarah, these findings validated what she already suspected: her reliance on technology, even when used mindfully, had tipped into imbalance. Self-care routines incorporating nature and minimalism. Determined to break free from this downward spiral, Sarah began exploring strategies to restore her energy and well-being. One approach stood out immediately: reconnecting with nature. Studies consistently show that spending time outdoors reduces stress, boosts mood, and enhances overall health. Whether walking through a park, tending to houseplants, or simply gazing at the sky, natural environments have a unique ability to ground us in the present moment. Sarah started small, incorporating short outdoor breaks into her daily routine. On sunny afternoons, she stepped away from her desk to stroll around the block, letting the fresh air clear her mind. During weekends, she ventured farther, hiking trails or sitting by loch shores, immersing herself in the sights and sounds of the natural world. These excursions weren't escapes, they were acts of restoration, reminding her of the beauty and simplicity that existed beyond screens. Minimalism complemented this practice beautifully. Inspired by authors like Joshua Becker and Marie Kondo, Sarah decluttered both her physical space and her digital environment. She donated clothes she no longer wore, organized files scattered across her computer, and unsubscribed from newsletters clogging her inbox. Each item she removed lightened her load, creating room for clarity and calm. Even her phone underwent a transformation. She deleted apps that drained her energy without adding value, replacing them with tools designed to enhance mindfulness and creativity. Instead of scrolling aimlessly, she turned to guided meditations, gratitude journals, and photography apps that encouraged her to capture moments of wonder. Slowly but surely, her devices became instruments of empowerment rather than sources of exhaustion. Affirmations and mantras for resilience. C. As Sarah rebuilt her routines, she discovered the power of affirmations and mantras to rewire her mindset. Words, she realized, weren't just expressions, they were anchors shaping how we perceive ourselves and the world around us. By repeating positive phrases, she could counteract the negative self-talk that often accompanied burnout. One mantra became particularly meaningful. Asterisk, I am enough. Asterisk, simple yet profound. These 3 words countered the perfectionism and people-pleasing tendencies that had fueled her exhaustion. When doubts crept in, asterisk, am I doing enough? Am I good enough? Asterisk, she whispered the affirmation softly, grounding herself in truth rather than fear. R. Other mantras addressed specific challenges. During stressful days, she recited, asterisk, I release what I cannot control. Asterisk, before tackling daunting projects, she reminded H. Heirs Elf. Asterisk, progress, not perfection. Asterisk, and during moments of doubt, she affirmed, asterisk, I trust my inner wisdom. Asterisk, these phrases didn't erase difficulties, but they softened their edges, giving her strength to navigate them. Grace. To deepen their impact, Sarah paired affirmations with visualization exercises. Sitting quietly, she imagined each word taking root in her heart, blossoming into confidence, peace, and resilience. Over time, these practices rewired her neural pathways, fostering a mindset aligned with growth and possibility. Healing through virtual immunities. While solitude played a vital role in Sarah's recovery, connection proved equally essential. Burnout thrives in isolation, feeding off feelings of loneliness and inadequacy. To combat this, Sarah leaned on virtual communities she joined earlier in her journey, finding solace in shared experiences and tool support. One platform, Sanctuary Online, hosted weekly check-ins where members discussed their struggles and triumphs. Hearing others articulate similar challenges normalized Sarah's feelings, reducing the shame she'd carried for so long. Participants exchanged tips for managing stress, recommended resources for self-care, and celebrated small victories together. These interactions reminded her that she wasn't alone, that healing was possible, one step at a time. Another community, Mindful Tech Collective, focused specifically on ethical uses of technology for personal growth. Members introduced Sarah to innovative tools like AI-powered wellness trackers, which monitored sleep patterns, hydration levels, and stress markers. Others shared playlists and podcasts designed to uplift and inspire, offering doses of positivity during tough days. Through these platforms, Sarah learned to view technology not as a source of harm, but as a partner in her healing journey. Crafting a ePrint for bliss. By the end of the month, Sarah's transformation was undeniable. The heaviness that had weighed her down began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and vitality. She no longer viewed burnout as a failure, but as a teacher, guiding her toward healthier habits and deeper self-awareness. Her mornings started with gratitude, her evenings ended with reflection, and her days flowed with greater ease and intentionality. Looking ahead, Sarah knew her journey was far from complete. There would still be challenges, moments of doubt, and periods of struggle. But now, armed with strategies and self-awareness, she understood how to course correct. Each misstep became an opportunity to learn, to grow, deepen her practice. In the final chapter of this book, we'll tie together the threads of Sarah's story, offering practical steps for integrating spirituality, mindfulness, and technology into a cohesive lifestyle. We'll also explore how to sustain these practices long-term, ensuring that balance becomes not just a goal, but a way of being. For now, take a moment to consider your own relationship with burnout. Where might you benefit from incorporating nature, minimalism, or affirmations into your daily routine? How can you use technology to support, not sabotage, your well-being? Remember, transformation begins with awareness, and grow, through consistent action. Start small, breathe deeply, choose one task, one moment, one step forward. Together, let's continue forging a path toward balance, clarity, and connection. Until then, may your days be filled with mindful presence and your nights with restful dreams. 11. Embracing the digital soul, a lifelong journey. The first rays of dawn spilled through Sarah's bedroom window, painting the walls with hues of gold and amber. She sat cross-legged on her meditation cushion, her hands resting lightly on her knees, palms facing upward in a gesture of openness. The air smelled faintly of lavender from the sachet tucked beneath her pillow, a small indulgence she'd added to her nightly ritual weeks ago. As she closed her eyes and focused on her breath, a profound sense of calm washed over her, filling the spaces where anxiety and exhaustion had once resided. It had been months since Sarah began this journey, months of experimentation, reflection, and growth. From decoding dreams to reclaiming her attention, from crafting sacred spaces within the digital realm to healing burnout, she had traversed a landscape both familiar and foreign. Now, as she prepared to close this chapter of her life, she realized something crucial. This wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. Her relationship with technology, spirituality, and herself would continue to evolve, shaped by new lenses, insights, and opportunities. Integration over perfection. One of the most transformative lessons Sarah had learned was that balance wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about integration. In earlier stages of her journey, she'd approached mindfulness and technology with rigid expectations, striving for an idealized version of harmony. But reality rarely conforms to such ideals. Life is messy, unpredictable, and often chaotic. And that's precisely what makes it beautiful. Sarah now understood that true balance came not from eliminating distractions, but from embracing complexity. It meant allowing herself to scroll social media without guilt when she needed connection, while also setting firm boundaries during times of rest. It meant using apps for productivity without letting them dictate her worth or identity. And it meant honoring her spiritual practices, even when life felt overwhelming, trusting that consistency mattered more than intensity. This shift in perspective freed her from the pressure to get it right. Instead, she focused on showing up fully, moment by moment, whether she was meditating, journaling, or simply sipping tea while watching the sunrise. Each act became an offering, a way of nurturing her soul amidst the ebb and flow of modern existence. Sustaining practices long-term. As Sarah reflected on her progress, she recognized the importance of sustainability. Habits formed quickly could just as easily dissolve under stress or neglect unless they were rooted in intentionality and joy. To ensure her routines remained vibrant rather than burdensome, she adopted several strategies designed to foster longevity. First, she prioritized flexibility. Rather than adhering strictly to a fixed schedule, she allowed her practices to adapt to her needs. Some mornings, she spent 20 minutes meditating. Other days, 5 minutes sufficed. When work deadlines loomed, she scaled back on elaborate rituals, opting instead for brief moments of presence throughout the day. This adaptability kept her engaged without fostering resentment. Second, she cultivated curiosity. Instead of viewing her spiritual journey as a checklist of accomplishments, she treated it as an ongoing exploration. She experimented with new tools, AI-driven wellness trackers, immersive VR meditation experiences, and sound baths streamed live from global practitioners. Each discovery added depth and variety to her practice, preventing stagnation and reigniting her passion for growth. Finally, she leaned on community. Virtual forums and local meetups provided accountability and encouragement, reminding her that she wasn't alone in navigating the complexities of modern spirituality. Sharing her struggles and successes with others reinforced her commitment to staying the course, even when motivation waned. Technology as a lifelong ally. Perhaps the most surprising realization was how deeply intertwined her spiritual journey had become with technology. Far from being adversaries, these two forces complemented each other in unexpected ways. Apps that once served as sources of distraction now guided her meditations, tracked her sleep patterns, and offered daily affirmations. Algorithms revealed synchronicities that pointed her toward deeper truths, while virtual communities connected her with kindred spirits across continents. Even artificial intelligence played a role in her evolution. Chatbots designed for emotional support helped her process difficult emotions, offering non-judgmental companionship during lonely nights. AI-generated dream analyses uncovered patterns she might have missed, providing fresh perspectives on recurring themes. These innovations didn't replace human interaction or intuition. They enhanced them, amplifying her capacity for self-awareness and growth. Yet, Sarah remained mindful of ethical considerations. She avoided platforms that exploited user data for profit, choosing instead those committed to transparency and user empowerment. By curating her digital environment with care, she ensured that technology continued to serve as a tool for liberation rather than entrapment. A call to action, your path forward. As Sarah looked ahead, she felt a surge of excitement mixed with humility. There were still mysteries to uncover, lessons to learn, and connections to forge. But she no longer feared uncertainty. She welcomed it as part of the journey. Her story wasn't unique. It was universal. Every reader who had walked alongside her shared similar hopes, fears, and aspirations. And like her, they too possessed the power to transform their lives. To those embarking on their own journeys, Sarah offered this advice: start small, choose one habit or ritual, and commit to it daily, even if only for a few minutes. Whether it's journaling, practicing gratitude, or simply pausing to breathe deeply, every action plants seeds of change. Over time, these seeds grow into roots that anchor you amidst life's storms. She also encouraged readers to embrace imperfection. Growth isn't linear. Setbacks are inevitable. What matters isn't avoiding failure, but learning from it. Each stumble offers an opportunity to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. Most importantly, Sarah urged readers to trust their inner wisdom. No app, algorithm, or expert can replace the voice within. Listen to it, honor it, let it guide you toward wholeness. Final thoughts from paradox to harmony. In closing, Sarah returned to the paradox that had sparked her journey, the tension between connection and disconnection, presence and distraction, humanity and technology. What once seemed irreconcilable now appeared harmonious, a dance of opposites that enriched rather than diminished her experience. Her phone buzzed softly beside her, breaking the silence. For a moment, she hesitated, then smiled. Reaching for it, she opened a meditation app and selected a guided session titled Gratitude for the Present Moment. As the instructor's soothing voice filled the room, Sarah closed her eyes and exhaled slowly. She was exactly where she needed to be, here, now, whole. And so, dear reader, may your path unfold with clarity and grace. May you find beauty in the interplay of light and shadow, peace in the rhythm of breath and heartbeat, and meaning in the whispers of your soul. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with mindful presence and your nights with restful dreams. Epilogue *. The final chapter ties together the threads of Sarah's story, offering practical steps for integrating spirituality, mindfulness, and technology into a cohesive lifestyle. Readers are invited to reflect on their own journeys, recognizing that transformation is not a destination but a lifelong process. With courage, curiosity, and compassion, they can navigate the digital age with authenticity and purpose, forging a path that honors both the sacred and the everyday. Conclusion: embracing the digital soul, a new frontier for spiritual growth. The room was quiet, save for the rhythmic ticking of a clock on the wall. Sarah sat at her desk, pen in hand, staring at the blank page before her. It wasn't just any journal entry she was about to write. It was a letter to her future self, a culmination of everything she'd learned over the past months. As she began to write, the words flowed effortlessly, as though they had been waiting patiently beneath the surface, ready to emerge. Reflections on the journey. When Sarah first embarked on this journey, she felt like a ship lost at sea, adrift amidst waves of distraction, anxiety, and disconnection. Technology, once a tool meant to simplify her life, had become a source of overwhelm. Social media feeds pulled her into endless comparisons, notifications fragmented her focus, and algorithms seemed to dictate her desires. She yearned for something deeper, a sense of purpose, presence, and peace, but didn't know where to begin. What she discovered along the way surprised her. The solution wasn't to abandon technology altogether. It was to redefine her relationship with it. By approaching her devices with intentionality, curiosity, and reverence, she transformed them from sources of chaos into instruments of clarity. Meditation apps guided her towards stillness, dream interpretation tools unveiled hidden truths, and virtual communities reminded her that she wasn't alone. Even artificial intelligence, often criticized for dehumanizing interactions, revealed its potential to foster introspection and growth. But perhaps the most profound realization was this: spirituality isn't confined to sacred spaces or ancient rituals. It lives in the everyday, in the moments we choose presence over distraction, connection over comparison, authenticity over perfect. Tie-in. For Sarah, this meant finding God/Goddess, not despite the algorithm, but within it, decoding messages hidden in patterns and synchronicities. It meant crafting routines that honored both her digital reality and her inner world, creating harmony rather than conflict between the T. Lessons learned along the W. As Sarah reflected on her journey, several key lessons stood out. 1. Mindfulness is a practice, not a destination. There's no such thing as arriving at mindfulness. It's an ongoing process, requiring patience and persistence. Some days, Sarah found herself fully immersed in the present moment. Other days, her mind wandered endlessly. But each attempt mattered, reinforcing neural pathways that supported greater awareness and resilience. 2. Balance requires boundaries. Technology itself isn't inherently harmful. It's how we use it that determines its impact. By setting clear limits, whether through designated tech-free hours, curated content, or mindful consumption habits, Sarah reclaimed agency over her time and attention. 3. Dreams are divine messengers. Far from being random firings of the brain, dreams carry profound insights about our subconscious minds. By keeping a dream journal and exploring recurring symbols, Sarah uncovered patterns that mirrored her waking life, offering guidance she hadn't considered before. 4. Burnout is a teacher, not a failure. Exhaustion forced Sarah to confront unhealthy habits and prioritize self-care. Through nature, minimalism, and affirmations, she rebuilt her energy reserves and rediscovered joy in the simple things. 5. Community matters. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. Virtual forums and local meetups provided accountability, encouragement, and shared wisdom, reminding Sarah that she wasn't alone in navigating the complexities of modern spirituality. Conclusion: embracing the digital soul, a new frontier for SPI. Ritual growth. The room was quiet, save for the rhythmic ticking of a clock on the wall. Sarah sat at her desk, pen in hand, staring at the blank page before her. It wasn't just any journal entry she was about to write. It was a letter to her future self, a culmination of everything she'd learned over the past months. As she began to write, the words flowed effortlessly, as though they had been waiting patiently beneath the surface, ready to emerge. Reflection. On the journey. When Sarah first embarked on this journey, she felt like a ship lost at sea, adrift amidst waves of distraction, anxiety, and disconnection. Technology, once a tool meant to simplify her life, had become a source of overwhelm. Social media feeds pulled her into endless comparisons, notifications fragmented her focus, and algorithms seemed to dictate her desires. She yearned for something deeper, a sense of purpose, presence, and peace, but didn't know where to begin. What she discovered along the way surprised her. The solution wasn't to abandon technology altogether. It was to redefine her relationship with it. By approaching her devices with intentionality, curiosity, and reverence, she transformed them from sources of chaos into instruments of clarity. Meditation apps guided her towards stillness, dream interpretation tools unveiled hidden truths, and virtual communities reminded her that she wasn't alone. Even artificial intelligence, often criticized for dehumanizing interactions, revealed its potential to foster introspection and growth. But perhaps the most profound realization was this: spirituality isn't confined to sacred spaces or ancient rituals. It lives in the everyday, in the moments we choose presence over distraction, connection over comparison, authenticity over perfection. For Sarah, this meant finding God/goddess, not despite the algorithm, but within it, decoding messages hidden in patterns and synchronicities. It meant crafting routines that honored both her digital reality and her inner world, creating harmony rather than conflict between the two. Lessons learned along the way. As Sarah reflected on her journey, several key lessons stood out. 1. Mindfulness is a practice, not a destination. There's no such thing as arriving at mindfulness. It's an ongoing process, requiring patience and persistence. Some days, Sarah found herself fully immersed in the present moment. Other days, her mind wandered endlessly. But each attempt mattered, reinforcing neural pathways that supported awareness and resilience. 2. Balance requires boundaries. Technology itself isn't inherently harmful. It's how we use it that determines its impact. By setting clear limits, whether through designated tech-free hours, curated content, or mindful consumption habits, Sarah reclaimed over her time and attention. 3. Dreams are divine messengers. Far from being random firings of the brain, dreams carry profound insights about our subconscious minds. By keeping a dream journal and exploring recurring symbols, Sarah uncovered patterns that mirrored her waking life, offering guidance she hadn't considered before. 4b. Burnout is a teacher, not a failure. Exhaustion forced Sarah to confront unhealthy habits and prioritize self-care. Through nature, minimalism, and affirmations, she rebuilt her energy reserves and rediscovered joy in the simple things. 5. Community matters. Healing doesn't happen in isolation. Virtual forums and local meetups provided accountability, encouragement, and shared wisdom, reminding Sarah that she wasn't alone in navigating the complexities of modern spirituality. A call to action. Your turn. Sarah paused mid-sentence, her pen hovering above the page. Writing this letter wasn't just for her. It was for anyone who might pick up this book, searching for answers to questions they couldn't yet articulate. To those readers, she offered this message. You don't have to figure it all out at once. Start small. Take one step today, then another tomorrow. Whether it's setting aside 5 minutes to meditate, deleting an app that drains your energy, or simply noticing the beauty around you, every action plants seeds of change. Over time, these seeds grow into roots that anchor you amidst life's storms. And remember, transformation isn't linear. Setbacks are inevitable, but they're also opportunities to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. Trust your inner wisdom. Listen to it. Honor it. Let it guide you toward wholeness. Finally, embrace imperfection. Growth isn't about achieving some idealized version of balance. It's about showing up fully, moment by moment, exactly as you are. You are enough. Looking ahead, the digital soul in action. As Sarah sealed the envelope containing her letter, she smiled softly, imagining the person she would become in 6 months, a year, or even 5 years. Would she recognize herself? Probably not, and that was okay. Life wasn't static, it was dynamic, ever-evolving. Her job wasn't to control it, but to flow with it, trusting that each twist and turn carried meaning. She envisioned a future where technology continued to play a role in her spiritual growth, not as a crutch, but as a catalyst. Perhaps AI would evolve to offer even more personalized insights, helping individuals decode their subconscious minds with unprecedented precision. Maybe virtual reality would enable immersive meditation experiences, transporting users to serene landscapes or sacred temples without leaving their homes. Or maybe something entirely unexpected would emerge, reshaping the landscape of spirituality once again. Whatever the future held, Sarah knew one thing for certain. The digital soul was here to stay. Its potential was limitless, constrained only by the boundaries of our imagination and intent. Tie-in. By embracing technology mindfully, we could unlock new dimensions of connection, creativity, and consciousness. Closing words, a bridge between worlds. In the end, Sarah realized that the true power of the digital soul lay in its ability to bridge worlds, to connect the seen and unseen, the physical and metaphysical, the human and divine. It wasn't about rejecting one realm for the other. It was about weaving them together into a tapestry rich with texture and meaning. So, dear reader, as you close this book and step back into your own life, carry this truth with you. You are the architect of your reality, Every choice you make shapes the world you inhabit. Choose wisely, choose intentionally, and above all, choose love for yourself, for others, and for the infinite possibilities that lie ahead. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with mindful presence and your nights with rest, full dreams. May you find beauty in the interplay of light and shadow, peace in the rhythm of breath and heartbeat, and meaning in the whispers of your soul. This authorized audiobook of the Digital Soul, A New Frontier for Spiritual Growth, 6. Cosmic Soul Journey Book 8, is presented by Soul Sanctuary Audio. Copyright Seraphine. A Heart Well. For the update audiobook click follow Soul Sanctuary Audio.